importune suit or voluntary dotage of some mistress, convinced or supplied them, cannot choose but they must blab. So remember here as well, if you're looking at Iago's techniques, he says, what if I had said? So he uses the conditional regularly to suggest he's not saying it. He's not damning the two of them, Cassio and Desdemona. But what if he did say it? So the very act of hypothesizing allows him to plant these ideas in Othello's brain. And he suggests that here Cassio has been boasting about the act. He's also very clearly testing Othello out. And Othello takes the bait as he always seems to. Hath, you can't actually see that, but above it says, hath he said anything? Iago goes on. He hath, my lord, but be you well assured, no more than he'll unswear. What hath he said? Faith, that he did, I know what he did. What? Lie? With her? With her, on her, what you will. Lie with her, lie on her. We say lie on her when they belie her. Lie with her, that's fulsome. Handkerchief, confessions, handkerchief. To confess and be hanged for his labour. First to be hanged and then to confess. I tremble at it. Nature would not invest herself in such shadowing passion without some instruction. It is not words that shake me thus. Pish, noses, ears and lips. Is it possible? Confess, handkerchief, oh devil. And he falls into a trance. So a couple of things to say about that. A couple more of Iago's techniques. The first one is feigning reluctance. So he seems here to not want to tell Othello what has happened. Faith he did as if he's going to give the truth. And then we see this pause for effect. I know what he did. So as if he can't bring himself to tell Othello what the truth is. And in doing so, he really is purposefully playing on Othello's imagination, using it as a weapon against him. Because he knows that Othello's imagination will picture it much worse. He also, we have this word play on lie. Lie as in to tell a falsehood, and lie as in to be horizontal, in this case in bed with Cassio. And again, we have the sexually explicit imagery with her, on her, what you will. So he purposefully wants Othello to imagine Cassio covering his wife. This ambiguous sort of monosyllabic response is very, very powerful, and all of these things are striking at Othello's weakness and playing on the power of the mind to torture us. So with this speech before he falls into the trance, we see some of those examples that I talked about earlier. There's a lack of clarity, broken punctuation, oaths like pish, exclamations, and we also have those physical gestures like he's trembling on stage. So we see that we see a physical externalization of what's going on internally. Obviously, very important thing is to compare this speech with Othello's sort of poetic, noble rhetoric at the beginning of the play, because that really shows the power of what Iago has done to him. There's arguably real pathos in this scene. You do need to think about whether you as an audience feel sorry for Othello. A.C. Bradley, who is one of your critics and very much a fan of Othello, as you'll see when you're reading your criticism, Bradley says that he's caught between, quote, longing and loathing. And that idea of him being caught between his love for Desdemona and his hatred of her is important. I think torn is a good word. He seems to be torn in this scene, torn between two very, very strong emotions. Those emotions obviously being love and jealousy, love and hatred. So we've said we see the increasing incoherence, followed by the trance, which is a sign of his degradation, the physical collapse. And at that point, we really see this sadistic enjoyment from Iago. Iago says, "Work on, my medicine, work. Thus credulous fools are caught, and many worthy and chaste dames, even thus all guiltless meet reproach. What ho, my lord, I say, Othello." And at this point, Cassio enters. So here you get this spiteful glee, and do think about always the effect on the audience. There's, I think, a real sense of disgust from the audience in the pleasure he takes over this. Work on, my magic, work. So you get in that direct address as if he's spurring his terrible but artistic plot on. We have seen that he describes his plot as a net in which he's caught Cassio, and here we get a similar imagery. Therefore, gullible, naive fools are caught, as if they're caught also in this net. So Cassio comes in. "How now, Cassio? What's the matter? My lord has fallen into an epilepsy. This is his second fit. He had one yesterday." And just a quick note on this. Obviously, the epileptic fit he mentions yesterday is one we're not sure whether it happened, but it's another example of the double time scheme. The idea that they've been there longer than the day that it seems that they have from the action. And also just notice here how quickly Iago can switch from this menacing sadism here to the kind, welcoming Iago that he often plays in public. Cassio says, "Rub him about the temples." Iago says, "No, forbear, the lethargy must have his quiet course, so you need to leave the fit to develop. If not, he foams at the mouth and by breaks out in a savage madness." Now just look at this word choice here, the savage madness. He's suggesting perhaps Shakespeare's hinting at this being the cause of the trance, but also this word savage, when we bear in mind some of the stereotypical views of the time of North Africans that you can go back to your context to look at. It's an interesting word choice. "Do you withdraw yourself a little while, he will cover straight." So here we see Iago directing again, telling Cassio to leave. So Cassio does, he leaves, and at that point we assume that Othello has woken up, because Iago says to him, "How is it, General? Have you not hurt your head?" Now, obviously